Bama is coming off a home loss and now has to go to Rupp Arena for a top 10 matchup featuring approximately 832 three-point attempts. Someone's about to be a two-loss SEC team.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, folks? Happy Friday, and welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, a daily national college hoop show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are your co-hosts. I'm Andy Patton. He is Isaac Schade, and you are joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. Want to give a special shout out to those everyday listeners, those of you hanging out with us in the Locked On College Basketball Discord channel. Remind you all that you can listen to the show ad-free on Amazon Music. And
Where, Andy?
On Amazon Music.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, just so we note that there. I also want to remind you all that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, folks. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. Well, Isaac, we're bringing this back. I don't know if we've done it yet this year. I think we might have once, but we record these shows, these Friday weekend preview episodes frequently on Thursday at a time where we haven't gotten through every game that takes place on Thursdays. So last year we would jinx a team by saying, we're pretty sure that team's going to win. And more often than not, I distinctly remember
we killed it.
Not expecting Oregon State to upset Arizona last year. That was a big one that I remember, like, oh yeah, we'll be fine. And then Jordan Pope went crazy and Arizona lost. So today, sorry, Memphis, but you guys, no doubt, unquestionably going to win at Temple. So no problems there. We'll see by the time you're listening to this if we got that one right or not. But we have so many games to get to, Isaac. 24 of the 25 ranked teams in the AP poll are in action on Saturday or Sunday. Utah State being the only team that is not. And frankly, by the time Monday rolls around, they probably won't be in the top 25 anymore. They lost to UNLV late on Wednesday evening. So we're going to talk about all of these matchups. We got two ranked-on-ranked matchups in the Big Ten. We got a whip around the country. 3 undefeated teams still in the Big 12, all going on the road. We'll talk about what that might look like. But before we get to any of that, we start with what has been unquestionably the best conference in college basketball this season, the SEC, where we have 3 ranked-on-ranked matchups all on Saturday, starting with the 4th-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide going at Kentucky. That game at 12 Eastern time on ESPN. KenPom favors Kentucky by 1. Number 1 ranked Auburn on the road at Georgia. 23rd ranked Bulldogs, 1 Eastern time on the SEC network. KenPom favors Auburn by 10. And then rivalry game, Ole Miss. The Rebels 21st in the country, Mississippi State at 15th. That game at 6 Eastern time on ESPN2. KenPom favors the Bulldogs. Isaac, 3 phenomenal games to get to, but it's really hard to beat this top 10 matchup between Nate Oats and the Crimson Tide and Mark Pope and Kentucky.
Andy, you joked about it off the top with all the 3-point shooting, but folks, it is very, very real. These two teams come in both top 45 nationally in 3-point attempts per game. As you would probably guess, Alabama is the team that is the higher of the two in terms of 3-point attempts right now. Kentucky 45th with 27.7 attempts per game, while the Crimson Tide are 8th nationally with 31.2 attempts per game. So 31 plus 27 is 58, Andy, and it's 0.9. So let's round it up. We're going to get maybe 63-point attempts in this game. That is bonkers. And legitimately, though, that could be a very big determining factor in this game because it's funny. While Alabama shoots so many of them, they're only 276th nationally in 3-point percentage, while on the other hand, Kentucky is shooting 36.5%, and they're 65th nationally. So, look, that's obviously a big picture level. At the granular level, whichever team is hitting those is probably the team that walks out of Rupp, a very happy SEC team that, by the way, only has 1 loss as compared to the other team, which is going to be sitting at 3-2 in conference play. Welcome to the best league in the country.
Both teams, interestingly, are among the top 25 best teams in the country on 2-point percentage as well. So they're very efficient scoring teams. inside the 3-point line, outside the 3-point line. We've seen these teams, particularly Alabama, be very, very reliant on the 3-point shot. They play that, a style where it's a 3-point shot or it's a lay, and they're not trying to shoot anything outside of that. And you can tell in the percentages that is successful for Nate Oats' team. But Kentucky, Mark Pope has always been a high advocate for a similar type offense. They do have some players who thrive more in the mid-range game. I know Jackson Robinson, and we've seen Andrew Carr kind of kill some teams by hitting a lot of shots in that middle of the court spot. But it's going to be really fun to see how these two teams kind of try to attack each other. How does Alabama utilize their elite guards, their veteran guards? How does Kentucky go at the big man Clifford Omarui? Like what do those specific matchups look like in this game? It's going to be really I'm so fascinated in this game, not just from the fact that it's two of the most talented teams in the country and just a game that NBA scouts are going to love being able to watch young players for Alabama play and some of these veteran guys who are having really great seasons at Kentucky play. But I'm excited for the coaching matchup too, the kind of the chess match between these two very, 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 very good offensive coaches, overall coaches as well. But it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Andy, KenPom has the line for this UK -1. So it's basically straight up, who do you want to win? Or who do you think will win, I guess I should say. Who are you taking?
I'm taking Kentucky because they're at home, but man, it's going to be, I think you're right. Whatever team is more consistent from beyond the arc, if Koby Brea is having a great night, if you tell me Koby Brea makes 5 or more threes, I'm smashing Kentucky winning this basketball game. If he doesn't, maybe that changes the equation a little bit, but if I'm getting a pick here, I'm taking Kentucky.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, he's coming off a not great shooting game. Yeah, I mean, he's 2 for his last 10. Hadn't been doing extremely well. Let's move, Andy, to number 1, Auburn at 23, Georgia. You on Tuesday's show just kind of queried, is Auburn on upset alert without Johnii Broome? And the answer was a very definitive no. My goodness, did they just slaughter Mississippi State there at home? But now they go on the road to Athens, Georgia, where the Bulldogs, credit to the AP voters who so often get things wrong. These Bulldogs should be ranked, and they are at 23rd. This game is going to be interesting because now, yes, Auburn did fine without Johnii Broome at home. How will they do as they go on the road? How does Johnii Johnson do? He had a great game stepping in for Johnii Broome, but here's the question. Can he be consistent in this role for however long it is that Broome is out? Where, I mean, barring obviously we don't know for sure that Broome's not going to play, but everything we were told is that he'd miss at least 2, and we're assuming more games. So that's the person I am in particular watching in this game is Johnii Johnson. How does he continue to perform?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting part of it. And again, one of the things we talked about was that Auburn's ability to handle losing a player of Broome's caliber is higher than most teams in the country. Even teams that have like Flory Badunga is a great backup center for Hunter Dickinson at Kansas, but if Dickinson goes down, Kansas is going to be in trouble just because they're not used to playing Badunga as much. They don't really have a backup behind him. But Bruce Pearl's team is so uniquely set up with the fact that they already have this deep rotation and they can kind of mix and match positionally that I think it puts them in a position to be more ready for something like this. But you're still going on the road. You're still playing a very, very good team, a top 25 team that deserves to be there, a team with a lot of really good young talent. Asa Newell, I think, is a huge hinge in this game. If we're talking about Johnii Johnson being the X factor for Auburn, for Georgia, it's going to be the freshman who's a great low post scorer. He's a great 3-point. He's a inconsistent, but can be a very good 3-point shooter. He's a player that I think could be a matchup problem for Auburn. And if he has a good game, plays like we've seen him play, I think that could cause some problems for the Tigers. But I'm still taking Auburn to win this one. They're just the better team. And even though they're going on the road, even though they're missing their star player, I think all it does is make this a closer game, but I still think Auburn wins.
And I'm with you on that, but this 10-point line that KenPom has is a little too rich for me. So I'm taking Auburn straight up, but if you're taking the line, give me Georgia to cover. Andy, Auburn is undefeated at 4-0 in SEC play. There is only one other team in the country's best conference that is also undefeated. Do you know who it is?
I have a feeling it's one of the two teams we're about to talk about.
Absolutely right.
And since I know it's not Mississippi State, I'm going to say it's Mississippi.
It absolutely is. Chris Beard's team is 4-0 in SEC play, having beaten those Georgia Bulldogs we just talked about, having won at Arkansas, who is still winless in SEC play. Whoops. Yeah. At home at LSU, but those are all fine. But then they go win in Tuscaloosa this week. My man,
Mhm.
Can Ole Miss follow it up with another road win against another ranked SEC team? And oh, by the way, as you said, their bitter rival.
Yeah, I think the turnovers is going to be the huge part of this game. Ole Miss is a team that very, very rarely turns the ball over. They take really good care of the basketball. Mississippi State loves to try to generate turnovers. They do it at a super high rate. So if they're able to get turnovers, get out in transition, score points off turnovers, Mississippi State wins this game. If Ole Miss, and it's not going to be easy, it's not going to be, even though they're a team that's good at taking care of the ball, going on the road to your rival, who's a team that is
going off.
Right, exactly. Cowbell's going off. That's a really tough ask for Ole Miss in this club. If they can take care of the ball, avoid careless turnovers, the traveling violations, offensive fouls, things of that nature, this is the kind of game that they absolutely go win. And if they do, I think the conversation starts to really flip for this team. You go win at Alabama, you go win at Mississippi State, 2 top 15 teams at the time that you played them. If you haven't been giving Chris Beard's team some love or some attention at this point, this is the kind of game that you're going to be forced to pay attention to them, because they're continuing to play extremely well in the toughest conference in the nation.
To Andy's point, Ole Miss is third in the nation in turnover percentage at 13.1. Wow. That, my friends, is pretty stinking good. Yeah. Andy, a quick flyby of some other SEC action. We've got Arkansas at Mizzou. By the way, as I just kind of said a second ago, Arkansas 0-4 in SEC play, while the Tigers, my man, they're off to a 3-1 start. Really good, turning things around after some struggles here and there in non-con play. So legitimately, Arkansas, who is the 5-point underdog in this game, could be 0-5 in SEC play. Tennessee, number 6 at Vanderbilt. That one is 3:30 Eastern on Saturday, SEC Network. Ken Palm has it Vols -7. But the question is, Andy, you were talking about this before we started recording. Chaz Lanier, in the game after getting called out by Coach Barnes to shoot more, did so and didn't connect on many of them, going just 2 of 16. What's going to happen as they head west from Knoxville to Nashville? Texas at number 5, Florida, LSU at number 11, A&M. And then the 2 bottom teams in the SEC, along with Arkansas, are South Carolina and Oklahoma, both winless. Somebody's got to win. Andy, anything quickly from those?
Yeah, over under bench points for Texas 1.5, because they had 1 bench point in their win over Oklahoma. As far as I know, Kendall Weaver is probably still going to be out. I haven't heard an update indicating otherwise. Florida, very good team. That's something I'm going to be watching for. I don't think Texas can go win against this Florida team in Gainesville, but I am curious to see if their bench is going to start to produce at all this year, because it could be an ugly rest of the season for them in the SEC.
Especially because those Gators also took a home loss earlier this weekend, are hopping mad. Legitimately, though, if you had made that line 2.5 over under, I might have taken the under on it. Andy, we got 2 ranked on ranked matchups taking place in the Big Ten on Saturday, including an elite guard battle between Jackson Shellstad of Oregon and Braden Smith of Purdue taking place in Eugene. That and more coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Prize Picks, who brings you this message that you need to know that Prize Picks is the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, Prize Picks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. So whether it's the playoffs or regular season, Prize Picks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. And now it's playoff time, and there's no better way to get in on that action than with Prize Picks. Here's how it works. You just pick more or less. Like Andy just gave me 1.5 bench points for Texas. I would have said more to that one, less to like 3.5. And if your picks hit, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. Yes, that's right. 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks. We got the football national championship game coming up on Monday. Andy and I are going to have to make picks for that game on Monday's show. But Ohio State wide receiver Jeremiah Smith is an absolute dude. His receiving yards is set at 80.5. Andy, I don't mind telling you, if I was getting in on this, I'd be smashing the over with no hesitation. It's fun to predict, so easy to play. Plus, with Prize Picks Flex Play, you can still double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And with the app, you get your winnings fast, sometimes in as quick as 15 minutes. Ready to run your football game this season? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. So don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prize Picks. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, Andy, let's move now to talking about the Big Ten. And as a note, Andy and I are recording this before the 3 Big Ten matchups on Thursday night, including Michigan at Minnesota and Maryland at Northwestern and whatever the other one is. It's Rutgers and Nebraska. And so, Andy, where we want to start, though, is just like the SEC, we got a couple ranked on ranked matchups. We've got number 19 Illinois at number 12 Michigan State, Saturday noon Eastern on CBS. KenPom has it Sparty -2. And then Andy, the game that I just teased a second ago, number 17 Purdue at number 13 Oregon, Saturday 3 Eastern on NBC. I love getting these NBC games. KenPom has it Ducks -1. Quack, 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 Mr. Ducksworth. Thank you very much, Mr. Ducksworth. Andy, let's start with the Illini heading to East Lansing. And I know we're talking Kentucky and Bama is kind of the game of the weekend. This one sneakily might surpass it, if we're being honest.
Yeah, this is a fantastic game. Sunday morning slate, at least on the West Coast. Sunday morning is Sunday afternoon on the East Coast, at noon Eastern there. But this is a fantastic game. Tom Izzo's club, 10-game winning streak, longest win streak since 2019 when they went to the Final Four. In a year where there was so much kind of uncertainty about how the Big Ten was going to shake out, like what's Purdue going to look like without Zach Edey? How are the new teams going to acclimate? There was a lot of hype about UCLA that has really kind of fell apart. There was a lot of hype about Indiana that has kind of fallen apart. Like we have seen Michigan has been better than advertised. Like there's a lot of uncertainty, like we said, in the Big Ten. And one constant, though, Michigan State, coming off of a few years that weren't as good as Tom Izzo's team is used to, they're rolling. They are absolutely rolling right now. A coach that isn't really utilizing the transfer portal, but the guy he goes out and gets, Frankie Fiddler, had a phenomenal game against Penn State on Wednesday. You can tell this is a coach who's still figuring out how to put these pieces together. He's still having so much success despite having done this for decades at this point in East Lansing. And they're going up against an Illinois team that has had some inconsistency as of late, like so many other teams in this conference. They were missing Kasparis Jakusionis. He missed 2 games. He's back now. It was clear with him being gone how important he is to this team, thanks to his size, his playmaking ability. He's just such a dynamic, fluid player for Coach Underwood's team, and it'll be interesting to see how he looks on the road against a tough Michigan State team. It'll be his second game back. I think that he's a huge X factor for this team, just in the sense of how Michigan State's going to defend him, what they're going to be able to do against him. This Illinois team is so youthful with him and with Will Riley and with Timoslav Ivicic. Like, this is a team that I was concerned about their ability to play in tough road environments because of that youth. And we have seen them struggle in those road environments like many teams do. Sure. This is a very tough road environment against a very good, far older and more experienced team. To me, that gives the edge to Michigan State in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of talent on this Illini roster. So I would not be surprised if they can go pick up a really big W, end this winning streak, and start getting themselves back on track going forward.
And I mean, they've been smacking people, Andy. I know they took the whole, that's the problem, is Illinois has been doing that. And their 2 losses are a little bit confounding. At home by 10 to USC, and then on the road at Northwestern, albeit in overtime. And it's like, that kind of stinks because it's not even against top of the Big Ten teams. And that's kind of frustrating. But yeah, I mean, it still could, for a while, it was three first-year college basketball players that were the top 3 scorers. Kylan Boswell and Trey White have slid up above Will Riley now. Kylan Boswell, who had a career high in scoring the other day, by the way, but really neat. Kusionis and Ivicic right there at the top of the scoring ledger for Illinois, and really cool stuff. Andy, I want to switch to the other game in this point guard battle we teased heading into this segment. And, this game in particular is a lot of fun because you, sir, are going to be in the building for Boiler Up at the Ducks. What's going to happen? What are you excited to see on Saturday afternoon? Yeah,
2 fantastic teams going at each other. Oregon, a very experienced team, a very good 3-point shooting team. They have veteran experience in guys like TJ Bamba. They have youthful experience guys. They have the trio of sophomores who we kind of expected that, hey, if Oregon's going to be really good next year, it's because these 3 sophomores are all going to have breakout seasons. And Oregon started out the year very strong. They did really well in Vegas in the Players Era Festival, and it wasn't because of that. KJ Evans has been fine. He's had his moments, but he has not been very consistent. He has not taken a leap as a scorer. Mookie Cook has not been the player that, frankly, he was billed to be coming out of high school. He dealt with significant injuries last year. Maybe there's still time, but he's not a significant contributor for them. And up till recently, Jackson Shelstad was not playing like the player that everybody, us, every other podcaster, every other person who covers this sport was hammering Jackson Shelstad as a sophomore breakout. And it took about 2 months into the season before the return on that prediction started to come true. Now Schade has looked elite in his last 5 or so games for Dana Altman and the Ducks. That's the matchup. That's the key matchup. Jackson Schade versus Braden Smith, 2 of the best guards in this conference, 2 of the best guards in the country, the way that Schade has played lately. They're not incredibly similar as players. Smith's a little bit more versatile with his rebounding ability. He's a better passer. But this is the matchup that's going to draw the most attention. I think Bamba and Fletcher Lawyer are going to have a big impact on this game as well. Certainly Trey Kaufman-Renn versus Nate Biddle is going to be
interesting. The one, baby.
Front court.
I want to see that one. Yeah.
I think that's going to be an interesting one too. But at the end of the day, this game is going to be won or lost, I think, by the play of Schade and Smith in the backcourt.
Yeah, I love it, Andy. There are multiple really interesting games within the game here, in terms of that. And I love that we get some of it in the front and the backcourt as well. I can't, if you mentioned, I missed you saying it. I don't think I have, that Purdue's on a 6-game winning streak right now, and really good stuff for the Boilermakers, and we'll see if they can carry this on. Andy, elsewhere in the Big Ten this weekend, we got number 24 Wisconsin at USC, Northwestern at number 20 Michigan. Again, we're recording before Michigan plays on Thursday night. Indiana at Ohio State, and Iowa at UCLA, both on Friday night. FanDuel has it Ohio State over Indiana by 6.5, and UCLA favored over Iowa by 6.5. Outside of the 2 ranked games, those are the 2 games that intrigue me more than the other games that involve ranked teams, just because Indiana is a dumpster fire right now, coming off that embarrassment the other day. Ohio State is kind of roller coastery, and then Iowa's done some nice things, but UCLA is not. Goodness, the only way this would be more intriguing right now if it was Indiana and UCLA playing, and so it's just, man, those 2 games, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. UCLA desperately needs a win. Indiana desperately needs a win. That's not to say Iowa and Ohio State don't need wins. That's what makes these 2 games so fun. But yeah, if UCLA can't beat Iowa at home and lose their 5th straight game, I'll tell you what, I would love to watch Mick Cronin's press conference, but I'm not sure I'd want to be at Mick Cronin's press conference. I'm not sure if he's going to want to be there, or even if he's going to show up if that happens. Meanwhile, for Indiana, it's a road game against a good Ohio State team, so it's not a terrible loss in a vacuum if that's what happens. But at some point, those calls for Mick Cronin or for Mike Woodson's job, they're going to get really loud, and this is the kind of game that you need to win to kind of settle the fan base down. We'll see if they're able to pull it off.
And especially, Andy, because I almost said these 2 back-to-back losses. That would be 4 losses. These back-to-back losses have not just been like, oh, shoot, we lost at the buzzer. Right. Both of them have been by 25 or more points. So Indiana, just keep it to single digits, even if you're going to lose, right? Like, crazy stuff happening in Bloomington.
Well, Isaac, we got 3 teams that are still undefeated in Big 12 conference play. All 3 of those teams have road tests this Saturday. We're going to talk Iowa State, Houston, and Arizona, all trying to continue to stay undefeated, taking on unranked opponents this weekend. We'll talk about that and a few other games taking place this weekend coming up in just a second. But first, folks, from the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keep every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Looking at some weekend games to put some lines on, Villanova 7.5-point favorites right now at home over Providence. It's not a great Providence team. We've seen Villanova be a little inconsistent, but when they're on, they should win this game by double digits. If you're banking on Kyle Neptune's team, I'm with you. I think they win this one. I think they cover that spread. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. As a reminder, you'll get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Isaac, we talked SEC in the first segment. A lot of great games this weekend. We talked Big Ten in the second segment. Now we got kind of a hodgepodge of the rest of some of the best games going on this weekend, starting in the Big 12, where we have 3 teams that remain undefeated in conference play, all going on the road. We're going to list off these 3 games, talk about who we think's most likely to still be undefeated when next week rolls around. First, we got Houston, the 10th-ranked Cougars going on the road at Central Florida. That game Saturday at 12 Eastern time. on the CBS Sports Network. KenPom favors the Cougs by 12. You got Arizona at Texas Tech, neither team ranked right now. Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN2. KenPom favors Tech by 3 in that one. And then you got the second-ranked Cyclones of Iowa State coming off that big win over Kansas. They're going out to Morgantown, West Virginia, to take on the Mountaineers. That game is Saturday as well at 5 Eastern time on ESPN+. Boo for that game being on ESPN+.
What are we doing?
KenPom favors the Cyclones. Sans Milan Momcilovic, who is out for an extended period of time. They are still favored by 6 in that one. Isaac, do you think we have 2 undefeated teams remaining? Do we think you have all 3? Do we think we have just 1? Do we think all 3 of these teams are going to lose on Saturday? What's your read on these 3 games?
If I was taking one team to loss, I'm good.
Sure.
I'm real well at speaking English good. It's going. My choice would be Arizona. But let me just say some things about Iowa State, who I love and really believe in. There's a couple factors working against them this weekend. Number, you are coming off of that big time emotional home win against Kansas, right? Like, I think we're at the point now where we're probably like, hey, the Big 12 probably runs through either Houston, Texas, or Ames, Iowa. Because I just think we've seen enough from Kansas to not have them in the same tier as those 2 teams.
Right.
But still, it's Kansas, and getting that win is massive. Also, you did that. And then you got to turn around and get on the road without Momcilovic again, unless some miracle happens and the Lord reaches down his hand. And there's that. And then also, dude, Javon Small could go off at any moment for West Virginia. And at home, we've seen the ears do some work this year. So while my pick is Arizona, I just want to give that context for why, like, West Virginia could legitimately win this game.
Yeah, I mean, West Virginia is a team that's beat Gonzaga, they've beat Arizona, they've beat Kansas.
Yeah.
I promise you right now, they're not afraid of Iowa State. Like, they've beaten some great teams this year. I think Iowa State's better than those 3 teams. I mean, they're better than basically every team in college basketball. But that's what this West Virginia team has done it. They've played the best of the best. They've beat the best of the best. Like, they are more than capable. And they beat Kansas without Tucker DeVries, so they can do it without him. So I'm with you. I think the likely scenario is that Iowa State and Houston are the 2 remaining undefeated Big 12 teams. Arizona is going to have a tough time at this Texas Tech team. I didn't think they'd beat Baylor, though, and they did. So they are certainly a team capable of winning this game against Texas Tech. But that's the most likely loss. But I think it's either going to be 2 teams still undefeated or all 3 remain undefeated, with all 3 of them picking up nice road wins in a conference where any road game is going to be difficult, no matter which team you're playing in this conference.
Andy, speaking of which, T's and P's, thoughts and prayers to the Kansas State Wildcats on Saturday, who have lost 7 of 8 and now have to go to Lawrence to play the Jayhawks, who were probably licking their wounds a little bit and irked at a very high level right now. I'm interested to see the score of that basketball game.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that way.
Yeah. KenPom favors Kansas by 18. I think that's a fairly reasonable assessment as to how that game might go. The other Big 12 game, TCU on the road at number 25 Baylor. That game is Sunday afternoon, 5 Eastern time on ESPN. KenPom, another double-digit projection there, has Baylor by 13. A couple other games I want to talk about here in the variety of different conferences featuring ranked teams. We're just going to throw them out there, Isaac. You can pick which team, which game you want to talk about. In the Big East, we got Creighton going at UConn. Obviously, Creighton has not been as advertised this year. They've had some injuries with Pop Isaacs. They've had some kind of surprising underperformances, but they're playing a very, very good UConn team. That game Saturday at noon Eastern on Fox. KenPom favors Danny Hurley's club by 7. Then you got Xavier going at Marquette, 7th-ranked Golden Eagles, Saturday at 2 Eastern time, also on Fox. KenPom favoring Marquette by 10. In the ACC, this one's hilarious. Duke, 3rd-ranked team in the country, at Boston College, Saturday, 8 Eastern time. Cooper Flagg's entire family is going to be at this game. ESPN is going to be showing it. KenPom favoring Duke by 23 on a road game in conference play. We don't have a FanDuel line for that. I suspect it's probably going to be pretty similar, just with how dominant Duke has been lately and how, let's say, not dominant that Boston College has been lately on the basketball court. WCC matchup, Santa Clara at Gonzaga, 16th-ranked Zags, Saturday at 9 Eastern time on ESPN+. And then in the American Athletic Conference, Memphis at Charlotte, Sunday at 3 Eastern time on ESPN2. We're recording this before Memphis at Temple. Like we said, we're jinxing Memphis for this game. So they're going to be 5-0 in conference play when they play Charlotte. We can say that confidently at this point prior to that game. Isaac, any of these matchups you want to talk about specifically before we move on?
The only one well, first let me give an anecdote we were talking about before we recorded, which folks, you might or might not have heard this, but Cooper Flagg from Maine, his family bought season tickets for Boston College because that was cheaper than buying individual tickets for this game. And so just hilarious that they're going to be showing up. I wonder what they do with the rest of their tickets. Anyway, because ain't nobody trying to go see BC in the Conti Forum. Due apologies. Andy, it's got to be Creighton at UConn for me. Yeah. And look, I know Creighton isn't Creighton of the last couple of years, but they've still got Ryan Kalkbrenner. They've still got Stephen Ashworth, right? And so this is a team that's just one game behind UConn in the loss column in conference. And, we're still trying to figure out who's with UConn right now. I mean, Marquette's the only undefeated team. St. John's is 6-1 in Big East. Can Creighton kind of be one of those top 4 teams? And so a way to do that, you go on the road and knock off the back-to-back reigning national champs. I think of these games, that's the one that stands out most to me. Andy, any of those for you, or shall we move on to that other set of games that we've got?
Yeah, I think we can move on. I want to talk about some of these games here, some really exciting ones. These are all unranked games, teams that don't feature ranked teams, but still have some intrigue, some excitement in them. 2 of them in the ACC, Virginia at Louisville. Can Pat Kelsey keep it up with this Cardinals club that has been fantastic this season? That game, Saturday, 12 Eastern, ESPN2. Ken Pom has Louisville by 14, which says a little bit more about Virginia and where they're at this point. You got Clemson at Pitt. Jeff Capel tried to fight in the entire Florida State team after their game earlier this week. Now they're back home taking on a very good Clemson team. That is a very interesting matchup to see if Pitt can respond. They have really struggled since Duke. Basically, Cooper Flagg dunked on the entire Pitt team, and it seemingly ended their season with that play because they have played like crap pretty much every minute of every game since then. We'll see if they can rebound against, again, a good Clemson team. Ken Pom favors Pitt in that one at home by 2. Only one more Big 12 matchup, BYU at Utah. Incredible rivalry. They are now conference foes in the Big 12 together again. This should be electric basketball, even though neither of these teams are in the top really half of the Big 12 at this point. That's still a phenomenal battle. Saturday, 9 Eastern on ESPN+, Ken Pom favoring the Utes by 1. Big East, you mentioned St. John's. They have played some great basketball. They're going at Seton Hall. Kadari Richmond returns to the Prudential Center to face his old team. Really excited to see how that plays out. That Seton Hall fan base is going to really let him know how they feel about him not playing there anymore. That game Saturday at 8 Eastern time. Providence at Villanova, 7 Eastern time on FS1. DePaul at Georgetown, 8 Eastern time on the CBS Sports Network. Both those games are on Friday tonight. FanDuel favors Georgetown by 9.5 and favors Nova by 7.5. DePaul, 39 consecutive losses in the Big East. If they lose at Georgetown, which feels like coming into the year, feels like one of their more likely victories, but Georgetown has played real great under Ed Cooley this year. And again, FanDuel favoring Georgetown by nearly double digits. If DePaul can't pull this one off, that's 40 straight losses in the Big East. I like Chris Holtman. I like the direction of this program, but wow, that would be a distressing streak to see continue for the Blue Demons.
Yeah, Andy, and I will add 2 words, regular season, because somehow DePaul did win a Big East tournament game against Seton Hall, in the 23 season. So I guess we got to just clarify that. But man, several of these games are really exciting. Clemson, Pitt, I think preseason we would have thought Clemson and Pitt are kind of vying for one of the teams to be top 2 in the ACC behind Duke. Pitt's fallen off a little bit, but if they want to get back into that mix, this would be a good opportunity to win. I'm really excited for BYU and Utah. I know Utah's not great, but it is a rivalry and they're at home. So who knows what could happen there.
Yeah. 2 more very quick ones here before we get out of here. UNLV at San Diego State, Saturday, 8 Eastern time, CBS Sports Network. Ken Pom favoring San Diego State by 12, but UNLV just beat Utah State. They got some momentum. Maybe they can go take down one of the other best teams in the Mountain West. And then tonight, Boise State at New Mexico, 11 Eastern time. If you're up late on a Friday night out on the East Coast, this is going to be some high-level basketball at the Pit. FS1, FanDuel favoring New Mexico by 3.5. If you haven't watched New Mexico at home, it is a fantastic Must watch basketball experience. Highly recommend checking this one out if you can.
Woo, Andy, another great weekend. I cannot believe we get 24 of the 25 AP ranked teams in action on this weekend, or Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be good stuff, folks. Make sure you tune in for that. And don't forget, it'll be the third week of Locked On College Basketball Saturday game night with Leaf Tulane hosting Andy. The plan right now, at least, is for Andy to join him on Saturday, and you're going to want to tune in for all of that great action. It's been a lot of fun thus far, and I know it will be again this week. If you're not part of the Locked On College Basketball Discord community, we'd love to have you join us there. Talk college basketball all the time. The link for that's in the show notes. Absolutely free to join, Andy, just like being part of this show. As always, we got to say apologies to the lawyer family. Let's go Wild Popes, and cheers to Mick Bruins and his soft team. We'll talk again Saturday night. Make sure you join Andy and Leaf then. But until then, peace.